So, Mona, let's address the elephant in the room. The TikTok comments went crazy when you said black people were not slaves, they were enslaved. And most people understood, but for the people who didn't, tell our online community why you said black people were not slaves, but enslaved. And black Americans today are not the descendants of slaves, but the descendants of enslaved peoples. Why did you say that?
I said what I said, and I meant what I said, and I'll stand on it 10 toes and double down. When I said black people are not slaves, but were enslaved, it's not to erase any history or any pain or any suffering. Why would I do that? I'm here to contribute some perspective that can elevate us. I said it because it's the truth. I ain't afraid of the truth. We gotta stop calling ourselves and thinking of ourselves as slaves. We must use the word enslaved rather than slave, because one is an identity and the other describes what happened to us. The identity is what is causing the problem. We were given a slave identity so we can be killed, raped, mutilated, and treated like pets and animals with no consequence. Do you understand that the label and identity of slave is what justified them murdering us then, and the descendants of a slave's identity justifies them murdering us now? Nah, bruh, we ain't accepting that no more. My point is, you were not raping and mutilating slaves. You were raping and mutilating people, humans, nobles, political leaders, linguistic geniuses, equals, clean, organized, civilized, educated, masterful, intelligent, free people. You were not executing dogs and savages. You were executing free people that you enslaved. You don't get to rape and mutilate my people and then steal their identity too. They gave us the identity to justify their wickedness, and the identity remains to this day to keep justifying their wickedness.
My take on it is this. If black people in America thought of themselves as slaves during the time they were enslaved, why the rebellion? If they thought of themselves as slaves, what were they rebelling against? What were they running from, and what were they running to? They knew they were free people being enslaved. That's why they rebelled and ran and escaped and planned and plotted and fought and got hung and tortured, not because they were being submissive slaves. And black Americans today are accepting the very identity black people died fighting against. White people called them property. They knew they weren't property. White people called them subhuman, dogs, animals, and pets. They knew they weren't pets. And white people called them slaves, but they knew they weren't slaves. Why don't we know it?
And people say, why are you talking about this? This is the past. Because this slave identity we're so attached to is holding us back, keeping us stuck, and getting us killed.
The slave identity is not who you are. The descendant of a slave label is a virus, a bacteria, a curse, a disease, a haunting, a disruptor, a cancer, a criminal, a thief, a chain, an anchor, a deceiver, a manipulator, and a violator. It exists to trick you out of your true nature. You decide who you are.